Long, long ago, in a time before our modern world, before villages built fences and drums called people to meetings, there was a time when animals lived together as one great family. They shared everything: their food, their protection, their trust. And in this great family, one animal stood out, admired by all for his strength, his speed, and his stunning beauty. His name was Leopard. But admiration, when it's not handled with care, can slowly curdle into pride. And pride has a strange and powerful way of creating distance, of separating even the closest of friends. This is the story of how pride led the leopard to walk a lonely path. Leopard was, without a doubt, a truly impressive creature. His body rippled with muscle, and his coat was a masterpiece of beautiful spots. He could outrun almost any animal in the forest. When danger lurked, Leopard was always the first to face it. When the community needed food, Leopard's hunts never failed. The other animals looked up to him with deep respect. Lion may have been the king of the forest, but Leopard was his trusted right hand. Whenever Lion addressed the animals, Leopard was right there beside him, a symbol of strength and reliability. But slowly, subtly, Leopard began to enjoy the praise a little too much. The admiration became a fuel for his ego. He started to remind others of his own importance. If it weren't for me, he'd boast, our enemies would have overrun this land long ago. Some of the animals would just laugh it off, but others would fall silent, a little uneasy. The seeds of pride had been sown, and they were beginning to take root in his heart. The first real signs of trouble appeared during a hunting season. The animals had decided to hunt together as a large group. This way, Lion announced, everyone will have enough to eat, especially the weak and the young. The community divided into teams. The mighty elephant was tasked with clearing paths through the dense thicket. The swift antelope would chase the prey towards the hunters. The keen-nosed hyena would track the scents. Leopard was assigned to a group with some of the smaller animals: squirrel, hare, and the slow but steady tortoise. A frown immediately creased Leopard's face. You want me to work with these ones?" he scoffed, his voice dripping with disdain. "I am much faster when I hunt alone," but Lion was firm and insisted that he follow the plan. Reluctantly, Leopard agreed. During the hunt, however, Leopard's pride got the better of him. He didn't wait for his team. He sprinted ahead, quickly caught the largest animal. And then, instead of sharing, he ate most of it by himself, right there on the spot. By the time squirrel, hare, and tortoise arrived, out of breath, all they found were leftover bones. Hare, mustering his courage, said quietly, "This isn't fair, Leopard." Leopard just laughed, a harsh and arrogant sound. "If you were as fast as me," he sneered, "then you would eat like me." That day, some animals went back to their families with empty stomachs, their hearts heavy with disappointment. After that incident, the forest began to fill with whispers. Leopard's behavior was changing, and not for the better. He stopped waiting for others. He stopped sharing his food. He stopped listening. When other animals tried to speak during meetings, he would interrupt them, eager to share his own opinions. When elders offered advice, he would simply ignore it, convinced he knew best. At night, when the moon was high, the whispers would drift through the trees like a sad, quiet wind. "Leopard is becoming so proud," one would say. "He no longer sees us as his equals," another would add. "His strength has completely blinded him." Lion, the king, heard these whispers but chose to remain silent for a while. He held onto a sliver of hope that his friend would see the error of his ways and change. But pride is stubborn; it rarely listens to reason or friendship. Then, one dark night, a great danger descended upon the forest. A group of human hunters entered their lands, their torches cutting through the darkness like angry orange eyes. They carried sharp weapons and laid hidden traps. Panic spread like wildfire among the animals. Lion immediately called for an emergency meeting. "We must move together, as one," he declared, his voice booming with authority. "If we stay united, we can escape this threat." A plan was quickly formed. Elephant would use his immense strength to break new paths for everyone to follow. The birds would fly high above, acting as lookouts. The smaller, More vulnerable animals would hide behind the larger, stronger ones for protection. It was a solid plan, built on cooperation and trust. But then, Leopard stood up. "I do not need anyone," he announced boldly, his voice filled with arrogance. "My own speed is all the protection I need. I will save myself," Lion tried to warn him. Leopard's strength alone is not enough to overcome every danger, but Leopard just left, turned his back on his community, and walked away into the darkness, alone. As the hunters advanced, chaos erupted. The animals, though frightened, stuck to the plan. They moved as a single, coordinated unit. Leopard, true to his word, ran alone. And at first, his strategy seemed to work. He was so fast, he effortlessly dodged the traps and outran the hunters. He felt a surge of triumph, his pride swelling. But then, suddenly, his luck ran out. A hidden trap, masterfully concealed under a pile of leaves, snapped shut on his leg. A sharp, agonizing scream ripped through the forest. But there was no one around to hear him. He was completely alone. He struggled, he thrashed, he fought with all his might, but his famous strength was useless against the cold and yielding grip of the trap. Hours passed. The sky began to lighten with the dawn. The hunters eventually found him, trapped and exhausted. But just as they closed in, something incredible happened. A thunderous roar echoed through the trees as elephant charged forward. Buffalo followed close behind, their horns lowered. A whole flock of birds swarmed down from the sky, screaming and diving at the hunters. The animals, working together, created such a commotion that the frightened hunters dropped their weapons and fled. They had come back for him. Working as a team, they freed Leopard from the trap. He was weak, ashamed, and utterly silent. Back in the safety of the forest, with all the animals gathered, Lion finally spoke. His voice was not angry, but firm and sad. "You are strong, Leopard. No one can deny that. But strength without humility is a dangerous thing." Leopard couldn't even lift his head to meet the king's gaze. He felt the weight of every animal's eyes on him. "I forgot," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "I forgot that I have always survived because of others." A heavy silence filled the clearing. Lion then made a difficult decision. From this day forward, he announced, no animal who believes he is above the others will hold a position of leadership. With those words, Leopard took a step back. He was no longer Lion's right hand. After that day, Leopard did change. He became quieter, more reserved. But something else had changed to the way the other animals saw him. They would greet him when they passed, but they always kept a careful distance. When hunts were planned, Leopard was no longer invited to join. It wasn't out of hatred or a desire for revenge, but out of caution. The trust had been broken. And so, Leopard began to walk alone. He hunted alone. He rested alone. He lived his life in solitude. And that, the story says, is why to this day, leopards are so often seen alone in the wild, silent hunters moving through the shadows. The lesson of this story is not that Leopard was punished for being strong. He was corrected because he forgot that his strength was a gift, meant to be shared with his community. This tale reminds us that pride can separate us from the very people who support us. No matter how strong, talented, or successful you become, you will always need others to truly thrive. Because when you choose to walk above people today, you may find yourself walking all alone tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching. If this story resonated with you, please consider liking the video and subscribing to our channel for more stories that make you think. See you next time.